This is the Victorian C class. It was once the strongest locomotive on Victorian railways, until being overshadowed by a much larger competitor. Nevertheless, it still fulfilled its purpose as a mainline goods engine, although having some shortcomings over the years. The class was designed by Chief Mechanical Engineer of VR, W.M. Shannon. It was the third in a series of locomotives built entirely in-house at Newport workshops, following the success of the last two, these being the A2 and the DD. The first of the class was rolled out of Newport in 1918. They were the strongest and heaviest locos in Australia at the time. Due to its weight, the Dudley Street Bridge had to be strengthened, and at the very least, the lines which ran to Woodend and Seymour, which were the lines they were to run on. 26 were built in a period of 8 years, being numbered C1 to C26. 2 were built as a sort of prototype. C1 was the only C class to be painted in Canadian red. It was immediately sent to operate goods trains on the Seymour line. Apart from pulling heavier loads, it was also found to be 5% more fuel efficient than the superheated A2 classes, and 25% more efficient than regular DD and A2 classes. A lot more C classes were ordered after that, but they had some differences. They had an unrevealed black livery, and were built in 5 batches. By 1924, the fleet was showing its strength on the Bendigo, Northeast, and Wonthaggi lines, where the bulk of the goods came from. And the next year, they were sent on the Geelong to Ararat hauling grain trains, replacing most of the A2s on that line. Brown coal was abundant in Victoria, so obviously VR would capitalize on this. C16 was converted to burn brown coal in 1923, but it wasn't a successful conversion, unlike the later conversion of X32. In 1929, C2 was also given cross-compound air compressors, which also proved a success, and soon after they were given to other locos as well. During World War II, VR was under increasing stress as they did not have enough suitable motive power for fast mainline passenger trains. And conveniently, there was a whole stockpile of C classes not doing anything. So they were put on mainline trains at 100 km per hour, on trains to Ballarat, Bendigo, Geelong, and Seymour. The engine specifications are quite remarkable too. With a 280 wheel arrangement, they were 20 meters long, 4 meters high, they were 128 tons in total, or 81 tons without a tender. Each of their axles handled 18 tons, and they had a tractive effort of 170 kilonewtons. They also used a Walschaerts valve gear, because that was the global standard. Their boilers could handle 200 psi. Their tenders could hold 21,000 liters of water after oil conversion. They had a 225 square meter heating surface. The class, with their high tractive effort, allowed VR to run cheaper and longer goods trains. Combined with the K classes, watch my video on that, they reduced goods trains and livestock mileage by 15% between 1920 and 24. But it's not always glory for these engines. Initially, they were worse than the A2s, having a longer, unstoked firebox, standing at a length of 3 meters. This led the Cs to have difficulty firing up and prone to clinkering. They also had an undersized boiler, which would run out of steam when working hard, causing them to have to be rescued. VR did try to fix these problems with locomotive C5. The locomotive in question was fitted with a new modified front end and a self-cleaning firebox. These all helped with steaming, and after these tests proved successful, the other Cs got these modifications too, as well as other steam locomotives. The C-Class was also the first goods engine to be fitted with automatic staff exchange apparatuses, also known as a token. These were added as they were frequently put on express goods and fruit trains. Fun fact, these tokens were used on the Hurstbridge line all the way until 2011. Steam engines ran on mainly coal, but after World War II, the quality of coal was abysmal, and with the entire coal industry under threat, all C-classes were converted to be oil firing in 1946, following the conversion of C-15. Even being fueled with only oil, they were still prone to running out of steam on long gradients. In 1947, the C-Class got a couple of upgrades that other locos received in the 1930s, such as the modified front ends and smoke deflectors. However, these deflectors were of a different variety. But as dieselization was fast approaching, this number would not last. With hundreds of modern locos to replace them, the end was near. The first to exit service was C-20 in June of 1954. The last to be withdrawn was C-7 in April of 1962. Out of the 26 built, one survives today, and is at static display in Newport Railway Museum. It ran 1,868,217 kilometers in service. It received a modified front end in 1935 and was converted to burn oil in 1946, and was the ripe old age of 40 when it was withdrawn. The C-classes were one of the most successful goods engines on Victorian soil, able to reduce mileage on most goods trains at the time. Long live C10.